Time flies. It really does. And we are now roughly 10 months away. That's it. 10 months from the 2026 World Cup. Which is crazy if you ask me, because it feels like 2 months ago we were still in 2015. But we're not. We are almost in 2026. And with that said, there are not many games left for Brazil to prepare. After the September World Cup qualifying, Brazil will only have 6 more friendlies before they call up the World Cup roster. There's not much time for a random player to come out of nowhere and be included. So today we're going to try to predict Brazil's 2026 World Cup roster with the current data that we have. And towards the end of the video, when we talk about the forwards, I will tell you if I think Neymar or Neymar will make it or not. Now listen, this is not my roster. This is the roster that I think Carlo Ancelotti will bring. So what I'm trying to say here is, don't shoot the messenger. Hello. If you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Chapéu Football, where we provide the best coverage of Brazilian football in English on YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, you're missing out. Now, before we start this video, here are a few things that you must know. So the 2022 World Cup, they allowed rosters of 26 players. So I am assuming the 2026 World Cup will be the same. So for the sake of this video, the roster that I'm going to try to predict will have 26 players. Ancelotti also had 2 roster call-ups for Brazil so far, and that is part of the data that we will be using, along with making my own projections. And understand that predictions are like butts, and butts are like opinions. And opinions, everyone has it. It doesn't mean it's a good one. I'm also going to have to assume that players won't get injured, but let's be real, there will be injuries as we approach the World Cup, so hopefully I can get 22 out of the 26 right. And Ancelotti will have some very tough decisions, and he's going to have to leave some big names out. I'm going to talk about Neymar in the forward section of this video, and whether or not I think he'll make it or not. I'm also going to go through most of the options that are fighting for a roster spot, and then I will give you my final selection in each section of the field. So make sure to drop a like in this video if you haven't already, and subscribe. We have surpassed 10,000 subscribers very quickly because we don't upload as often as we would want to because we don't have time. We have another channel called Tactical Manager TV, which is very busy covering US soccer. So subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to ramp up content very soon. And let me know in the comment section down below, do you think Neymar will make it to the 2026 World Cup or not? Okay, let's begin the episode. Okay, so let's start with the goalkeepers. And for the 2026 World Cup, I believe Ancelotti will bring 3 goalkeepers. Not believe, he has to. So before I tell you the 3 that I think he will bring, let me talk about all of the realistic options. Okay, so Alisson from Liverpool is obviously the #1 option right now. He was in both call-ups for Ancelotti when he called up a roster in June and now. Now, Bento from Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia, very talented young goalkeeper. Young, you know, for goalkeeper standards, because goalkeepers, they take longer to mature. Bento has been called in both camps as well. And to my surprise, Hugo from Corinthians has also been called up for both camps. Now, so if we're going to go with the data that we have, these would be the 3 goalkeepers that he's going to bring for the World Cup. I think Bento and Alisson are very likely to be there. Now, Hugo is a weird one for me. He's a really good shot stopper, but he's not great with his feet. As a 3rd goalkeeper, I can see it happening, but let's talk about the other options. So Ederson is obviously an option. I'm not sure if he's staying with Manchester City or not. At the time of this recording, they said he was going to leave, but then he wasn't. He was benched by Guardiola. So Ederson is in a bit of an iffy situation right now, which makes it hard to know if he'll make it to the World Cup or not. Lucas Perry, that plays for Leeds, that's someone to watch. He was great with Botafogo, he was good with Lyon, and now he's in the Premier League. Léo Jardim from Vasco is also someone that I have to mention. He's been incredible for them, and they have a horrible team. Like, Vasco is pretty damn bad, even though, you know, they defeated Santos 6-0, but we don't have to talk about that. Now, Everton from Palmeiras, my beloved Palmeiras, I love him, but I don't think he'll make the roster, and I don't think he should. I don't even know if Everton will be with Palmeiras next year during the World Cup. He also has those dinosaur arms where he can't really dive, and he did cost Palmeiras the Club World Cup. Palmeiras could have advanced against Chelsea if it wasn't for Everton. Once again, legend for the club. I love Weverton, but he's not at his best. And on top of that, I don't even know if he will be at Palmeiras next year. So Weverton won't make it. And one option that is flying under the radar, and I don't think Ancelotti might call him anytime soon, is Luis Junior, the 24-year-old that is actually starting for Villarreal in La Liga. It might be someone to watch out for. I don't think he's ready for the Brazilian national team, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got an opportunity. I'm going to keep track of him, but I doubt that he makes the final roster. So with that said, if we're going to use the data that we currently have and make projections, Ederson's situation is very iffy, and for the two camps that Ancelotti has had, he called up the three goalkeepers, the same three goalkeepers. So Alisson from Liverpool is one, Bento from Al Nassr would be another one, and Hugo from Corinthians. Those are the three goalkeepers that, with the data that we currently have, I believe he's going to bring to the 2026 World Cup. Next up, we have the fullbacks, which would be the laterais in Portuguese. And for this current roster that we just had for September, Ancelotti brought 5 fullbacks. But Alexandro got injured, and once he got injured, he didn't really replace him, so we only had 4. So for the World Cup, I think Carlo Ancelotti will also bring 4 fullbacks. And understand, this is probably Brazil's biggest weakness right now. It's the Achilles heel of the Brazilian national team, the fullback position. I think it's where Brazil's biggest weakness is at the moment. It's kind of like Corinthians paying the bills, right? That's their biggest weakness. They don't really pay the bills on time. For Brazil, it's the laterais. So here are the options. Alexandro from Flamengo, the left back. I'm not a big fan, but it looks like Carlo Ancelotti is a big fan. He was in the roster recently, but he got injured. Danilo, the former Juventus also fullback, now with Flamengo, is an option, but I doubt that he will make it. He hasn't been great. He also, I believe, he got benched at Flamengo, and he's very often injured, and he's old. Now Wesley, or Wesley, right, that plays for Roma, the right back, he's a good option, and he was called in. I find him a little inconsistent with his performances, but he's a talented right back, and he could make the roster. Douglas Santos from Zenit, I'm not a big fan. He is in the recent roster that Ancelotti called in. I don't know why, but he's there. Now, Wanderson and Caio Henrique, both fullbacks that play for Monaco, they're good options. They've been called in. I think Wanderson is very dynamic. He can play as a wingback. They're also good options, Wanderson and Caio Henrique. Now, Carlos Augusto, the left back from Inter Milan, is 100% an option, and to me, he should be there as well. I do also want to give a shout out to Luciano Juba from Bahia. I think he should be considered. Good left back. He's been good. But I mean, Alexandro got injured, and Luciano Juba was still not called in. Now, another player was called in to replace Joelinton in the recent roster, but not Juba. So, as you can see, the options are not horrible. It's not like Brazil is a disgrace when it comes to the fullbacks, but they're not great. But I still haven't told you which are the 4 that I think Carlo Ancelotti will bring to the World Cup. And I think he's going to bring Wanderson from Monaco, the right back. He's dynamic, good stamina. It's more or less what he looks at, a fullback, so I think Wanderson will be there. Carlos Augusto from Inter Milan. He's not in the current roster, but I think when push comes to shove, he will be there. I think Carlos Augusto from Inter Milan will be one of the left backs. I also think Alexandro from Flamengo will be there. It looks like Ancelotti likes him. He seems to value experience, and I think Alexandro might actually make it to the 2026 World Cup. Not that I think he should, but I think he will. And then Wesley from Roma, the right back, he's also inconsistent, but he called him up twice. Ancelotti has brought him in twice. So I think Wesley will also make it to the World Cup. So Wanderson, Carlos Augusto, Alexandro, and Wesley will make it to the World Cup. Just my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. As I said, I'm expecting to get 20 to 22 players right and probably 4 to 6 wrong in the entire prediction. The forward section is where it gets interesting. Now we're going to talk about the center backs. So before we do that, make sure to drop a like in this video if you haven't already. Let me know your roster prediction in the comment section down below. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Okay, center backs, the zagueiros of the Brazilian national team. Since he can bring 26 players for the World Cup, I believe Carlo Ancelotti will bring 5 center backs to the 2026 World Cup. And here are the options. Gabriel Magalhães from Arsenal, recently called in by Ancelotti. He's most certainly fighting for a spot. Murilo from Nottingham Forest. He has not been called in yet, ever since Carlo took charge, but he's definitely someone that he's keeping track of. Bremer from Juventus. He's been out injured for quite some time, but now he's back. He's starting for Juve, and he'll likely get a shot sooner or later. Marquinhos from PSG, right? He's Champions League winner, captain. And I know he's been shaky or iffy for Brazil at times, but let's be real. Marquinhos, if he is healthy, he's a lock for the World Cup. I know he might have been better for PSG than he is for Brazil, but he's going to the World Cup as long as he's fit, as long as he's healthy. Vitor Reis, that plays for Girona, former Palmeiras, Manchester City player. I think he's an option, but he's definitely not ready, so he's more of a dark horse. He's not very likely to be there. Éder Militão, he's back with Real Madrid. He was injured, obviously, for quite some time. He worked with Carlo Ancelotti, and he was a starter until he got injured. He will get a shot soon as well. Beraldo, a promising center back from PSG, definitely an option. Alexandro from Lille, the center back, actually a very good center back, by the way, very underrated. Leo Ortiz from Flamengo, I think he's a great ball-playing defender, great passer, good on the ball, can dribble into space. He was called in back in June, but he wasn't called in for this roster, but he's definitely an option. And then we have Fabrício Bruno, which he got called in by Ancelotti right now, and I think he's going to like him. He was great when he played for Flamengo. He almost went to West Ham. Now he plays for Cruzeiro. He's fast, great in isolation, tough to dribble when you try to go past him. It's very tough. And he was called in over Leo Ortiz this September window. And Fabrício Bruno, many of you probably know or remember him from when he got humiliated by Neymar recently. But come on, it's Neymar. On 1v1s, Neymar is still among the best in the world. Fabrício Bruno is actually a fantastic center back. But with that said, which will be the 5 that I think Ancelotti will bring to the 2026 World Cup? And they are Marquinhos from PSG, Alexandro from Lille, Éder Militão from Real Madrid, Gabriel Magalhães from Arsenal, and Fabrício Bruno from Cruzeiro. And I could explain each one, and I can tell you right now, I think Alexandro is one of the best center backs that we have. He's very underrated. I think Marquinhos is the best center back that we have, and he will play well for Brazil. He will get called in. Militão is someone that Ancelotti trusts, knows, and he will be playing for Real Madrid. Gabriel Magalhães is also among the best center backs that we have, even though, just like Marquinhos, Magalhães has been shaky for Brazil at times. And Fabrício Bruno, despite playing in the Brazilian League, I think he's very underrated. I think the Brazilian League in general is very underrated. We tend to overvalue players that play in Europe. There's a lot of players in the Brazilian League. Like I told you, Leo Ortiz, Fabrício Bruno, they can very well fight with any of these names that I mentioned. And I think Fabrício Bruno will make it to the World Cup. I don't think he'll be a starter, but I think he'll be there. Next up, we have the midfielders, and I believe he's going to bring 6 of them for the World Cup. Let's talk about the options, and then we'll go to who I think he'll actually bring. Okay, so for the options, let me start with the midfielders that he's bringing in for the September camp. Bruno Guimarães from Newcastle, he made both rosters. Casemiro, a guy that Ancelotti very much trusts, and he made it to both rosters, even though the Manchester United version of Casemiro is very far from the one that we've seen with Real Madrid, but Ancelotti really likes him. You got also Joelinton that made this roster but was cut due to injury. He also plays for Newcastle, just like Bruno Guimarães. André Santos that plays for Chelsea. He made both rosters. Lucas Paquetá, he's back with the national team, the West Ham player, very good player by the way, all from this call-up. Now, when Joelinton was cut, Jean Lucas from Bahia was called in. I don't think Jean Lucas is good enough to make it to the World Cup roster, but he's a very good player for Bahia. Even though, I'll say this, if I was to choose between Luciano Juba, the left back, and Jean Lucas to make the roster, if I had to choose one Bahia player, I thought Luciano Juba would be the one getting called in, but it wasn't. Now, other options that we have in the midfield is Ederson from Atalanta in the Serie A, the Italian Serie A. He was in the first call-up, but he was not in the second one, and I think it's because of the injury that he had. He just came back from injury, so he isn't 100%. So that's why I think Ancelotti didn't call him up in September. Now, João Gomes from Wolves, he's an option. I'm not a big fan. André from Wolves is another option. I'm also not a big fan. Danilo, that plays for Botafogo, is an incredible midfielder. And if he keeps playing well for Botafogo, he just arrived, right? If he performs well for Botafogo, he probably will get an opportunity. Danilo is a very good midfielder. Gerson, that went to Zenit in Russia, he's a great player. I just don't know if he's going to make it. Matheus Pereira from Cruzeiro. There's no evidence that he'll make the roster, but I find it astonishing that Matheus Pereira was not called in the September camp. Seriously, Matheus Pereira right now might be the best attacking midfielder in the Brazilian league. Also, when he played for West Brom in the Premier League, he was actually good. I don't know why he wasn't in this camp. I would have rather had him tested instead of Lucas Paquetá, and I think Lucas Paquetá is fantastic, but I wanted to see Mateus Pereira. I don't think he'll be in the World Cup. There's no evidence of that, but he definitely deserves a shot at the national team. And another one that I must mention is Andreas Pereira, because he was called in by Carlo Ancelotti in June. He was very good for Fulham in the Premier League last year, and now he's going to Palmeiras, one of the best teams in Brazil right now alongside Flamengo, where Andrés Pereira will be a starter. And if he's starting for Palmeiras, if he's playing well for Palmeiras, I could see Andrés Pereira making the roster. Now, Neymar, I'm going to talk about him in the forwards section. You could consider him an attacking midfielder, a 10, but I kind of consider him a forward. So, who will be the 6 midfielders that I just mentioned, the options, that will make the 2026 World Cup? And they are Bruno Guimarães from Newcastle, Casemiro from Manchester United, because Ancelotti loves Casemiro, André Santos from Chelsea, Ederson from Atalanta, Lucas Paquetá from West Ham. Yeah, I would bet money on Lucas Paquetá making it. And lastly, I think Andreas Pereira from Palmeiras will make the roster. And that's not because I'm a Palmeiras fan. I think if he was playing for Fulham, he would have had a good shot. I actually think playing for Palmeiras increases his odds. Because here's the thing, and this might be controversial, this might not be. I think teams like Palmeiras, Flamengo, Cruzeiro, the top teams in Brazil, honestly, even Bahia, they're better than Fulham, in my opinion. Now, of course, when you play for Fulham, you do take on tougher competition because the Premier League is better than the Brazilian league. It is. It's factual. They have more money. They sign better players. It's more competitive. But Andrés Pereira, leaving Fulham and going to Palmeiras, he's moving to a tougher team with a lot of pressure, probably more pressure than Fulham. I think he's going to perform well. I think he's going to do very well for Palmeiras, and I do think he's going to make the 2026 World Cup. But that's just my opinion. Let me know yours. Last but not least, we have the forwards. And this is where Brazil is stacked. This is where Carlo Ancelotti is going to have to leave some big names out of the list. Some really big names, some huge names. One of them possibly being Neymar, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So before I give you the ones that I think will make the roster, let me tell you the options that Carlo Ancelotti has. Okay, so we have Estevão from Chelsea is definitely an option. Gabriel Martinelli from Arsenal, João Pedro from Chelsea, Caio Jorge from Cruzeiro. The guy's been scoring a lot in Brazil, right? He was a player that started at Santos. He went to Juventus, didn't really do that well in Italy, but it seems like he got his mojo back in Brazil, and he's been scoring goals for fun for Cruzeiro. Really good center forward. Luiz Henrique, that was incredible for Botafogo last year, helping them win the Brazilian League, helping them win the Libertadores. He was honestly one of the best, if not the best players in South America. Now he plays for Zenit. He's a winger. He's an option. Mateus Cunha from Manchester United. Rafinha from Barcelona, which right now he's one of the best players in the world. Richarlison, that I would probably not have him in the roster, but Carlo Ancelotti also loves Richarlison, and coaches have their favorites. Rodrigo from Real Madrid is an option, even though I don't know if he's fallen out of favor with Ancelotti or not. I don't think he has, but Rodrigo from Real Madrid. Antony, that might be moving to Real Betis. We don't know at the time of this recording. If Antony is still at Manchester United, he's screwed. But if he moves to Betis, he has a chance. Vinicius Jr. is obviously one that will likely be there. Endrick is an option, but Ancelotti is not a big fan. And we made a whole video about Endrick, right? For Endrick to be called into the Brazilian national team for the World Cup, he would have to become a starter for Real Madrid. And Rodrigo is still there. Vinicius is still there. Mbappe is still there. There's so many options that unless Endrick is a starter and scoring goals for fun at Real Madrid, I don't think Ancelotti will call him up. So the odds of Endrick making it to the World Cup, as I made an entire video about that called The Truth About Endrick's Downfall, which I don't think he's done. I think he's going to be a tremendous player in the future. I talked about how I don't expect Endrick to be in the World Cup. Unfortunately, I'm a big fan of Endrick, but I don't think it'll happen. Now, a few other players. Marcos Leonardo from Al Hilal, incredible center forward. He's definitely an option. Pedro from Flamengo is an option. I don't think Pedro will make it, but I like Pedro a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it to the 2026 World Cup. He was there in 2022. Vitor Roque from Palmeiras is an option. He's heating up. I doubt he'll make it, but he's starting to play very well for Palmeiras. And Gabriel Jesus could also be an option once he's back from injury. And then there is Neymar. Will he make it to the 2026 World Cup? And my answer to you is I don't think so. One, Neymar's been getting injured way too often, but it's not that. Neymar at this stage of his career, he kind of reminds me of Ronaldinho from 2009 to around 2015, those last 5 years of his career. And Ronaldinho didn't make it to the 2010 and 2014 World Cup. The talent is still there. And when you watch him play for Santos, you see that he is heads and shoulders above every single player, even against the opponent. When the ball lands on Neymar's feet, he's different. He's special. He's the best Brazilian player over the past 15 years or so. But Neymar doesn't seem to have it in him anymore, just like Ronaldinho towards the end of his career. Ronaldinho in the end of his career still managed to win the Libertadores. He still managed to be effective, won the Estadual Flamengo, won plenty of trophies with Atlético Mineiro. But the player just doesn't have that in him anymore. The intensity. He can't press. He can't come back to defend. And there's a very high risk of injury. It just doesn't feel like Neymar is the same that he was after the knee injury. And I also don't think he's there mentally, right? I hate to say this, Neymar is one of my favorite players of all time. And I actually even think Neymar, in his peak, his prime, he was better than Ronaldinho. I can talk about that in a separate video. But I don't think he'll make it to the 2026 World Cup, which is crazy because Cristiano Ronaldo will be there. Messi will be there. They're all older than Neymar. But I don't think he will make it. I don't think he has it in him anymore. And I'm sorry, that's my opinion. And yes, his health and fitness is also an issue. So with that said, which are the forwards that I think Ancelotti will bring to the 2026 World Cup? And I think he's going to bring 8 total. The first one being Vinicius Jr. from Real Madrid. Number 2, Rafinha from Barcelona. Estevão from Chelsea. Gabriel Martinelli from Arsenal. Richarlison from Tottenham because he loves Richarlison. João Pedro from Chelsea. That's been very good for Chelsea and he's very versatile up top. Rodrigo, that Ancelotti is very familiar with from Real Madrid. I think he'll make it. And lastly, Matheus Cunha from Manchester United. So yes, some big names are going to be left out like Caio Jorge, Luis Henrique, Neymar, Antony, also Endrick, Marcos Leonardo, Gabriel Jesus. A lot of them will be left out because, as I said, Vinicius, Rafinha, Estevão, Martinelli, Richarlison, João Pedro, Rodrigo are the ones that I think Ancelotti will bring to the 2026 World Cup. Okay, so real quick before we close this video, if Ancelotti brought the exact roster that I just gave you, and none of these players changed the team that they play for within the next 12 months, how many players would we have in each of the top leagues? Like, where do most of these players play? So we have 11 players in this roster that play in the Premier League, 4 that play in La Liga, 3 that play in the Italian Serie A, 3 that play in Ligue 1, which is the French league, 4 that play in the Brazilian league, the Brasileirão, and 1 that plays in Saudi Arabia. And we have 0 that play in the Bundesliga, the German league. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, and obviously drop a comment with your 2026 Brazilian roster or what you think Carlo Ancelotti will do and if you would bring Neymar or not. Thank you very much for watching everyone and have a great day.